let's move on. We've got a wonderful guest. We're going to talk about something that is actually a very interesting topic to me. I want to talk about what's going on in our college campuses, and to help me do that, we're welcoming Sarah Parshall Perry. She is the Vice President and Legal Fellow for Defending Education. You can find her at Sarah P. Perry, Perry. That's Sarah with an H on X. Sarah, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Kira.
Thanks for hanging in with us on a Friday night. We appreciate you taking your time. I know it's that we used to go to clubs on Friday nights. Now look at us. We're doing satellite radio.
You get to a certain point when your age is a certain number and you think, bedtime's closer to 10:30 than it is club time. So I appreciate it entirely.
Girl, listen, for Valentine's Day, my husband made dinner reservations for us. He did it late, so we couldn't get decent time. He made dinner reservations for us at 9:30 on a Valentine's night.
That's too rich and too late for my blood. I'm sorry. I hope to be in bed, surfing the internet, like doom scrolling, maybe sipping a glass of wine, watching the news. That is what I do at 9:30 at night.
I know we spent the entire day just psyching each other up. We could do it. Anyway, we did it. It was fine. But literally, like the last morsel of food, we were out of there immediately. Well, I thank you for staying up late to talk to us, and we'll get you on your way soon enough so you can start your doom scrolling. But one of the things that we've been watching President Trump do, he's dealing with some of the issues that are going on these university campuses. And one of the things, Sarah, that I have been saying as a commentator for quite a while now is that we need to really focus a lot of firepower on education, because we're educating socialists, right? And we need to be educating patriots. So we need to strip out the rot that's happening at the university level. But Defending Education has just released a report that reveals that since 2021, that at least 128 U.S. universities from 44 states and D.C. have raised over $336 million through more than 270 DEI dedicated funds. That's insane to me. Where is all that money going? And how do we know that? How do we hold them accountable for where that money goes? Is it even being spent where it's supposed to be spent?
That's really a great question. Listen, I am a product of public education. I have 3 kids. My oldest graduated from a public education institution all the way through. He is now at Louisiana State University as a sophomore. I had 2 others, 2 younger ones, one is going into college. The other one only recently left public education, and we got him into a parochial school only because he was there for an athletic scholarship. But listen, I am the stand of the mission and the sort of accessibility of public education. I don't want to feed public education to the left. It is an institution that conservatives and moderates and libertarians are entitled to as much as liberals. But what we're discovering is part of the reason that our national assessment of education placement rankings are so abysmal. And when I tell you abysmal, we're talking 30% on math literacy, 27% on English literacy for 8th graders. We are only at literate level for 1/3 of the students enrolled or less in our public schools, and yet 90% of American parents send their kids to public school. We are spending so much money, $3 trillion since 1979. We are getting very limited return on investment. Part of that is because we have been so focused on social emotional learning and on literally political, ideological sort of profiteerance. And that comes from the form of diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarship. That comes from the form of gender identity. It comes from the form of the Common Core state standards. It comes from the form of sort of recidivist disciplinary action. We've got to eliminate all of it. We've got to get back down to basics. That is part of the reason I'm so thrilled that we could release these results, because what we've discovered is we are pushing $400 million in the last presidential term alone for race-based programs, strictly a form of race essentialism. It occurs Title VI of the Civil Rights Act on its head. It turns equal opportunity and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment on its head. That's something we have to rectify.
Well, how do we do there's one way to do this, right? That the feds are doing. They're stripping the funding. And I think that's a good idea. I don't even know why we fund universities in the first place. It's absolutely ridiculous. But we got to strip the funding out. Okay, good enough. But as your report and you at your organization have been saying, a lot of these funds just get redirected, or a lot of it will get reapplied for under different titles, different names, different programs. You also say, your organization also says that many universities are creating donation funds to funnel money towards DEI scholarships. Like, I read this and it blew my mind. Like a George Floyd Memorial Scholarship or Racial Equity Anti-Racism Fund. So they're still running these programs in other ways, including with private donations. Do you think that that the feds need to actually attack the programs, period? Like, do we need to get rid of the programs, or are they okay if they're getting private donations?
No, I think they need to attack the programs, and here's why. Because most institutions, higher education institutions, I'm talking college, graduate school, accept some form of federal funding. Once you get the federal funding hook involved, they are subject to federal civil rights law. In fact, every higher education institution, in order to get their sort of pot of money at the beginning of every year, has to certify, we will follow federal civil rights law. We will not discriminate on the basis of race or sex, national origin, ethnicity. When you discriminate and you say, we are only giving federal funding to individuals of this skin color, we are only giving federal funding to individuals of this nationality, you are violating federal civil rights law. And I think as the taxpayers, all of our taxpayer dollars go to state and federal funding for educational institutions. We all have a right, we all have a stake in this game to be able to say you cannot discriminate under civil rights law, under constitutional law, and the return on investment for American higher education right now is abysmal. Only 64% of college kids are graduating with the actual degree for which they took out federal funding. I'm looking at my son, who is a wildlife major with a minor in marine biology, and I'm thinking, son, you will not be one of those 43%. I'm going to tell you right now, you are going to be among those who graduate because he is taking out federal student loans. Once you connect that hook of federal funding, you've got the imprimatur of the federal government breathing down your neck saying, you cannot discriminate on the basis of race. You cannot discriminate on the basis of national origin or skin color. Here's why. These types of funding arrangements work in the nature of a contract. So you send the money to state recipients, state institutions, public schools. They get the federal funding, but every year, to be able to get that pot of money, they have to certify they will not discriminate. And what we're seeing right now is that the majority of American higher education institutions has thumbed their nose at the federal government and said, yes, we know what the certification form says. We know what federal civil rights law says, but we're going to decide that we're going to take $336 million in donations and send them exactly where we want. Your laws be damned. That is not the way American law works.
That is the way it seems that the left is wanting American law to work, especially when we think about what's been going on with these federal judges and and even today, I covered earlier, Sarah, excuse me, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, saying that she wants to enact this war plan for the Democrat Party. And one of the things that she wants to do is to create a shadow government. And Tim Walz has said this too. So it's this idea, and it looks like the universities are also following suit. It's this idea, and Joe Biden even did it. He said he was going to defy the Supreme Court on student loans. The idea is that they seem to feel like they're in their own separate realm of laws. And I do want to point out, by the way, to your point, Sarah, you said, you can't, if you're taking money from the feds, that means the feds get to tell you what to do with that money. The feds have a hook in you. I would like to remind liberals that this is the same argument that you all make when it comes to healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid.
Yes.
I'm Canadian. This is the constant refrain in Canada when it comes to the government being in control of your life. Oh, well, we need a law for that, this or that, because we're in charge of your healthcare. So we can tell you what to do with your body. So yeah, of course, we should be able to tell these people, why do they have to take our money? Just use your own money. These universities are wealthy. They have these huge endowment funds. It's just another version of Americans being taken for a ride, if you ask me.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And listen, money talks within the education gambit. It screams. The reason most American students cannot afford a college education. And of course, we realize that this is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So under the Biden administration, they excused not once, not twice, but 3 times each time, by the way, struck down by the Supreme Court saying, no, I'm sorry, the law that you're purporting to give as the authority for excusing student loans is not actually giving you the power to excuse student loans. And of course, now these borrowers are in absolute default. They're seeing hundreds of point drops. These are young 20-somethings saying, oh, we never had to repay these loans. Now, of course, they do. Their credit ratings are being tanked. And students like my 2 children, my oldest 2, who are in college right now, are bearing the brunt of this type of financial impact. Because guess what, Kara? Now people like me, who are the parents, we are the ones that the federal government says you may borrow the most money for your students' education. Your students can only top out at $1,500 to $3,500 a year for federal student aid. Now, I will tell you, I paid my way through college. I paid my way through graduate school. My son, my daughter are going to benefit from my largesse. And I say that because it is a function of the way the government is operating right now, which is we pass the buck on to solvent borrowers like parents who had been out in business, and they are more likely to repay these loans because under the Biden administration, they were writing off loans right and left. The Biden administration fundamentally remade American higher education, and we are now coming to terms with exactly the bill that has come due.
It's a brutal one. My daughter also is heading into college this semester or next semester for my marine biology, actually, as well. And my son is graduating from school in Chicago. I'll tell you this, Sarah. We're Black. We're a Black family. My son was going to school in Chicago. He's a film student at DePaul. They have to take a DEI course. Does your son take a DEI course at school?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And he's at LSU down in the SEC. You wouldn't think that would be the case, but it is.
Yeah, they had to take a DEI course. So my son, he was late for class. And so he came into class and apologized, as I have taught him to do. When you're late, you apologize. He apologized. And his professor actually told him, you don't have to apologize for being late because being on time is a function of white supremacy. I paid somebody to say that to my Black son at college.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Your tax dollars at work, Kara.
Oh my God. My tuition dollars. And he had the good sense not to tell me that story until he passed the class. Because I was like, wow. Did I pay that woman?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's what I'm fascinated by the fact that the higher education hard sciences are being taken over by DEI. So you would think right to the liberal arts, political science, sociology. These are natural targets for social emotional learning, for race essentialism, for gender identity, right? Those are natural targets. When we're looking at things like ecology, biology, like marine sciences, one would think these are Black and white issues. They cannot be infected with these types of sort of ideologically left-wing Marxist perspectives. And yet, as you and I know painfully well, that's exactly what we're seeing happen in American higher education.
It's brutal. I totally agree with you that I think we need to squash everything personally. I'm in war mode right now. I am in warrior mode. Like I'm just ready to like, burn everything to the ground. So I think it is totally fine we need to be stripping out these things because we have created a system where discrimination is normalized and that is not the American way. Sarah, thank you for stopping by today. Before I let you go, can you tell everybody where to find you online and what you guys are doing over there defending education?
We are removing political ideology from every American education outlet, from kindergarten all the way through graduate school. We want value-neutral, high-quality education for every American kid. And you can find me on X, where I pontificate regularly about law and education, at Sarah P. Perry, and go to our organization where we have multiple research reports for the use of every American taxpayer at defendinged.org.